Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Covert Historian, the only place where history comes with a side of humour and a splash of the unexpected. Today, we're diving into the powdered wig-wearing, cherry-tree-chopping legend himself, George Washington. The first President of the United States, the general who led America to independence, and the man who voluntarily gave up power, George Washington was a total boss. But beyond the statues and textbooks, there's a world of weird, wild, and downright hilarious facts about him that history class totally skipped. George Washington, born in 1732, was more than just the first president of the United States. He was a military commander, a statesman, and a key figure in shaping America's early years. Washington's leadership during the American Revolution earned him the nickname Father of his Country. Did you know Washington was a successful businessman before he became a military leader and politician? He ran a profitable whiskey distillery at Mount Vernon, producing nearly 11,000 gallons in 1790. Here's another surprising fact. Washington never attended college. Despite this, he was a strong advocate for formal education and left money in his will to establish a national university. Hard to believe today, but Washington was unanimously elected as the first US president. In fact, he's the only president in American history to receive 100% of the electoral votes. Did you know that Washington initially refused to accept a salary for his role as president? He eventually agreed to take one to avoid setting a precedent that only wealthy individuals could serve as president. Here's a head-turner. His inauguration speech was only 130 words long, shortest ever. The man knew how to keep it brief. You would be surprised to know that Washington was the first president to use the phrase United States of America in an official document. This incidentally occurred in his first inaugural address itself. Here's another surprising fact. Washington never had any biological children of his own. However, he did raise Martha's 2 children from her previous marriage as his own. Believe it or not, Washington was actually a redhead. That's right. Despite the powdered wigs we often see in portraits, his natural hair color was reddish-brown. And you guess it right, Washington never wore a wig. Washington also had a lifelong struggle with dental issues. By the time he became president, he only had one natural tooth left. But contrary to popular belief, Washington's dentures were not made of wood. They were actually made from a combination of human and animal teeth, as well as ivory. Here's an interesting tidbit. Washington never officially lived in the White House. The presidential residence wasn't completed until after his term ended. Here is a scary fact. Washington was a member of the Freemasons, a fraternal organization shrouded in mystery. He was initiated in 1752 and remained a member throughout his life. Another fun fact, Washington loved ice creams. He even had an ice cream maker at Mount Vernon and served the dessert to his guests. Washington was also an avid reader and book collector. His personal library contained over 900 books on various subjects. One more interesting fact, Washington was the only founding father to free all his slaves. He did so in his will, although the freedom was only granted after his wife Martha's death. Washington had a custom-made military tent that he used throughout the Revolutionary War. This tent, known as the First Oval Office, still exists today and is on display in Philadelphia. Washington was known for his punctuality. He once said, "I cannot justify it to my own mind to make others wait for me." Washington was a fan of theatre and often attended plays. He even had a theatre built at Valley Forge to entertain his troops during the harsh winter of 1777 to 1778. Washington was also the first president to appear on a postage stamp. This happened in 1804, long after his death. A quirky fact about Washington: he had a fear of being buried alive. In his will, he requested that his body not be entombed for 3 days after his death. Here's our final interesting fact. Washington's birthday was originally celebrated on February 11th. It changed to February 22nd when Britain adopted the Gregorian calendar in 1752. Well, there you have it, folks. Some fascinating facts about George Washington that you might not have known before. I hope this video has given you a new perspective on this iconic American figure. If you had fun watching, subscribe to the Covert Historian and smash that like button so you never miss a hilarious peek into the past. Until next time, stay curious and stay covert.